All right, hello, hello, hello. I am Perry Romanowski, and we're going to get started with this webinar pretty shortly. I still have some setup stuff to do. Hopefully you can hear me okay. What you can do before then is check out the questions below and post your questions, which I'll get to at the end of this presentation. In the meantime, let me just set up here. Hopefully that's working okay. Just getting ready to start. It's about 10 minutes away till start time. Feel free to post your questions while we wait. Just getting ready to start. It's about 10 minutes away till start time. Feel free to post your questions while we wait. And when you post your questions, be sure to put your name and maybe your email address so I can respond to you. If I don't get to it during this presentation, I can certainly respond via email. So I will answer all questions, maybe not during this webinar, but I will certainly send you an email if you post a question. Thanks to everybody who's signed up so far or joined us so far. We got Agnes. Hello, Agnes. Looks like we got Vandita. Hello, welcome. Shivani, hello. Lena, you've joined us too. It's good to hear from you. Laura, it's good to hear from you. Thanks for the question. Marlene, it looks like Marlene has joined us too. So happy to have you on the call. Lola, hello Lola. Thanks for joining. Hopefully you guys find this helpful, useful, and informative. Hello and welcome. We're just about 8 minutes away from starting this 7 essentials every cosmetic chemist needs to know. It's a cosmetic science webinar. This is the first experiment I've ever done like this, and hopefully it goes off all right. We'll see. You never know about technology, but so far everything's going so good so far. If you look below this video, you can see a spot for questions. Feel free to post your questions there right now if you have a question. And I will answer either on this call or on this webinar, or certainly by email. I'll answer any question that's submitted. We've had a few questions already put out there. Thanks so much. Obia, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Looks like our room is filling up pretty good here. Got another question here. Janessa, thank you so much for your question. Thanks for being on the webinar. I hope you find this very useful, and I'll get to all of these questions at the end. We're going to get started in just about 5 minutes. Thanks again to everybody who's joined. I'm your host, Perry Romanowski, and we're going to be covering the 7 essentials that every cosmetic scientist needs to know. Thanks for the question, Dominique. I'll be sure to answer. Thanks everyone for taking the time out and joining me. We had over 700 people who are on this call, and so I thank everybody for joining, and I hope you find it really useful. This has been a lot of fun to put together, and I look forward to it going well. Got a couple more questions. Looks like Pumi is on the line, and also Moulay is on the line. Thank you so much for joining. We have people from around the world on this call, and I appreciate everybody who took the time out to join on this unique cosmetic science webinar. It's the first time we've ever done this, and we'll see how it goes. All right, we're just 3 minutes away from starting. We'll be taking questions the whole time, so feel free to post a question. Be sure to put your name and email address in there so I can respond through email or directly on the line, so I know who I'm answering. Got some questions already coming in. One from Chrisit. Chrisit asked about whether you're going to need to take notes or the slides are going to be available later. There's going to be a replay of this, a rebroadcast of this, but I certainly could share the slides at a later date if you ask. So yeah, I will make that available for you. All right, we're just 2 minutes away from starting. If you're having any problems, feel free to put it in the question. I'm going to be giving the presentation, so it'll be a little bit hard for me to keep up with any kind of comments. But feel free to post questions as they come to you, and I will answer as many as I can at the end. All right, it looks like the time has started. So before I get started, first, let me go live here. All right. Hello, hello. How are you? Thank you so much for joining this Practical Cosmetic Chemist formulation webinar. We're going to be covering all sorts of topics about cosmetic science, and we're always experimenting with new ways to bring you useful information. And this is a Google Hangout webinar that I read about how to do it, and I thought I'd give it a try. So hopefully you find it useful and that you can learn a lot. Now, before I get started with the presentation, to give you an idea of what my surroundings look like, here you go. I have this is my little office area. I have my books over there, the Cosmetic Science books. Here are just some of my favorites here. Harry's Cosmeticology. And then we got the Practical Modern Hair Science, Sustainable Product. And so, you know, I fill my, my room with knowledge here. You know, most of the time you're going to spend time in your lab, but I always find it useful, especially when you're doing research and trying to learn new things, is, you know, get out of the lab, spend time at a desk, and get down to some good research. All right, just a couple of things before I get started. You'll notice at the bottom of this video, or below this video, there's a spot for questions. Feel free to put your question there. I'm going to collect all the questions, and at the end, I will answer as many as I can. If you put your name and your email address, if I don't get to your question on this call, on this webinar, I will email you and send a response that way. So every question that gets put there will get an answer from me. And that's just part of the webinar. Also, if you look at the bottom, you're going to see the free gift that I talked about, and we'll get to that in a moment. Let me set this up, and I'll get started sharing the slides. All right, there we go. Let's get started there. Thank you so much for joining me on this unique webinar about cosmetic science. Now, this is the first time running a webinar like this, and I ask you to please bear with me if there's some type of technical glitch. Hopefully it doesn't slow things down too much, and you can still learn a lot from the webinar. In this webinar, I'm going to be covering a little bit about the 7 essential topics that every cosmetic chemist needs to know. But first, as a thank you for joining me on this webinar, I want to tell you about this free gift. I've put together this handbook of practical formulating tips that you should find really useful. It is a collection of the articles that can help make you a better, more effective cosmetic formulator. Now, this is a new-to-world book, and you are the first and only ones who have gotten it. There's useful information about formulating, product evaluation, equipment, and even a resource section. I mean, it's over 100 pages of pure content, and it's yours free just for joining us today. I thank you very much. Now, to get the gift, just click on the link below the video on this webpage on the left. And be sure to do it sometime during this webinar because it's not going to be offered after this webinar is over. All right, before we jump in, let me tell you a little bit about my background in case you don't know. I always had an interest in science, which led me to getting a degree in chemistry from DePaul University. Now, I, like a lot of people with science degrees, I had no idea what I wanted to do or even, what I could do when I finished. I interviewed for a few jobs, and I ended up as a formulation chemist at Alberto Culver. Now, there I worked for over 17 years creating hair care and skincare products. Here are just a few of the brands and the products that I personally worked on. Now, not only did I get a good background in formulating, but I learned a lot about the whole cosmetic product development process. So after doing that for a few years, I started writing articles in my spare time for trade journals, which eventually turned into a book called Beginning Cosmetic Chemistry, which I developed into also a continuing education course through the Society of Cosmetic Chemists. And about 7 years ago, I taught myself how to create and build traffic to websites, and then I launched a consumer blog called The Beauty Brains, and that got turned into a few books, and then through Chemist's Corner, which I launched a few online training programs that teach people how to create cosmetic products, just like professional cosmetic formulators. So here's a look at the Beauty Brains website. It's at thebeautybrains.com, which is where scientists answer consumer questions about beauty products. It's fun and educating, and it's lots of fun to work on. And here is Chemist's Corner, where we provide articles, resources, and even a discussion group for cosmetic chemists. Now, since you're on this webinar, you probably have some of these. Now, while I don't actively formulate as much as I used to, I want to let everyone know who's considering becoming a cosmetic chemist that this is a great job. It's low stress. You get to invent products that people use. It requires lots of creativity. And you are constantly learning, and you can really have fun on the job. One of my favorite things about being a cosmetic chemist was that my work had an actual impact on people's lives. There are a lot of scientists working in jobs where they spend all of their time in labs researching and just a tiny bit of a problem, but they rarely get to see the fruits of their labors. As a cosmetic chemist and formulator, the things that you work on actually get turned into products that people use every day, and that is really an excellent feeling. Now, there's one more thing I want to do before we get into the main agenda of this talk. Back in about 1998 or so, I came up with a 3-word mission statement to guide all of my presentations. So whenever I do a presentation, I try to hit each of these points, and they include educate, inspire, and entertain. Now, just to ensure that I get at least one of these accomplished, I'm going to now switch back to a live feed, and here we go. All right, I switch back here. Now, to ensure that I get at least one of my mission statements there. Now, you're not going to see this on a lot of other webinars, but I've got my juggling beanbags. We'll step back, and we'll briefly amaze you with juggling. Now, in a live show, this would be where everyone applauds wildly, but since you're virtual, I'm just going to imagine your applause. All right, enough with that. At least we got the entertainment part of this broadcast done. Let me get back to the presentation. All right. While we wait here, be sure if you have any questions, feel free to post it below. Okay. In a previous video, I went through the 7 things that cosmetic chemists needed to know to get to be a good formulator. Since that was only a short clip, I thought I'd use this time to expand on what some of those things are. So in this webinar, I'm going to review the different aspects of those 7 essential things that every formulator needs to know. And if you stay till the end, I'm going to have a special offer for the Practical Cosmetic Formulating course exclusive to people on this webinar. Actually, there's a button right below my video. If you want more information about the course or want to join, just click on that link there. Now, during this webinar, we're going to cover information about the cosmetic industry, a review of the 3 types of cosmetic ingredients, some basic surfactant science, 8 key types of cosmetic formulas, a little about product testing and how to run a stability test, a couple of tips for making prototypes, and an overview of the process by which a cosmetic product gets created. It's a lot to cover in 40 minutes, but I'm going to do my best. Of course, we can't get into a lot of detail on a lot of subjects. We do that in a lot more detail in the Practical Cosmetic Formulating course. So let's jump right in with one of the most important things to learn, an overview of the cosmetic industry. There are a ton of aspects of the cosmetic industry, and knowing them will help you start your career, get information, ideas, formulation ideas, and help you innovate. To learn about the cosmetic industry, it makes sense to first make sure you know what the products are considered cosmetics. While there are thousands of cosmetic products on the market, they can all be sorted into 5 distinct categories. Skin products. These are products designed to improve the appearance and feel of skin. The skincare market makes up about 30% of all cosmetics sold, which is the largest share of any category. It includes moisturizing products designed to improve the look and feel of skin, and anti-aging products that promise to get rid of the signs of aging and like wrinkles. Then there are sunless tanners that change the color of skin. And then there are over-the-counter drugs that protect skin from the sun. They treat medical conditions like acne, and they really do reduce wrinkles. Other types of skin products primarily remove things from skin. These are like cleansers like body washes, hand soaps, facial washes, toners, bubble baths, and more. And this area also includes scrubs and masks and exfoliation products. You could also add shaving creams and depilatories to these groups since they are designed to remove hair from skin. And we cover all of these in our Practical Cosmetic Formulating course. Next are the hair care products. These are the second most popular type of cosmetic, making up about 25% of sales. The most frequently purchased hair products are shampoos, which remove dirt and oil from the hair. There are also specialty shampoos that qualify as over-the-counter drugs, like include anti-dandruff shampoos or anti-lice, and then even hair restoration shampoos. Over-the-counter drugs are regulated a little bit different than cosmetics, and you have to have specific things you have to do to sell those. Hair conditioners are another type of product designed to be rinsed off, but they leave material behind to improve the look and feel of hair. Varieties include intensive conditioners, protein packs, hot oil treatments, and a variety of other specialty products. A third type of hair product are those meant to be left in the hair and change the look and feel. Now, these are styling products, and the largest segment of these products include hairsprays, mousses, styling gels, putties, and other things. There are also leave-in conditioners. Now, a final category of hair products would be reactive hair products. These are ones that will chemically change hair. For straightening the hair, for example, there are relaxers. For making the hair curly, we have perm technology. And for changing the hair color, we have permanent, semi-permanent, and temporary hair colors. There's a lot you can learn just in hair chemistry. Next, we have color cosmetics. For most people, these are the types of products they think of when we say the word cosmetics. Color cosmetics make up about 20% of the cosmetic market and include products that change the skin's color and appearance. This group includes like face foundations, lipsticks, blushes, eyeshadows, and more. Color cosmetics are actually the most regulated of all cosmetics because governments around the world restrict the types of ingredients that can be used for colors. The fourth category are fragrances and perfumes, which have been part of the cosmetic industry since the 1600s. They make up about just 10% of the cosmetic market, and they include perfumes, colognes, body sprays, body splashes. And then we have the last category of cosmetic products, and these are personal care products. This group makes up approximately 15% of sales in the market, and depending on what products you include, these are things such as oral care, such as toothpaste, mouthwash, and whitening teeth products. It also includes deodorants and antiperspirants. You can see there are a lot of different products that are considered cosmetics. And to be a complete formulator, you really need to know how to make almost all of these products. So if you're going to be in the cosmetic industry, it's also important that you know all the products that are and who the important brands and companies are. Here is a relatively recent listing of the top cosmetic companies. Now, these numbers aren't exact. It's hard to get exactly numbers that refer just to the cosmetic part of these companies. Certainly, P&G is bigger than a $20 billion company. However, just the cosmetic piece is $20 billion. No doubt you've heard of most of these, such as L'Oreal, Unilever, P&G, Estee Lauder. Now, these are the companies that represent that sell the most cosmetic products. But you can see that the three biggest are much larger than the ones later on in the company. I mean, there's a big drop off from number 3 at 20 billion down to number 4 at 10 billion. It's twice the size. Of course, consumers don't really care much about what companies are in the cosmetic industry. That's useful for you to know as a formulator because those are a lot of times where the jobs are. But consumers are the ones, they want to buy products from brands. And here are the top cosmetic brands in 2015. The biggest include L'Oreal, Gillette, Dove, Pantene, Nivea, Chanel, Estee Lauder, Garnier, and Olay. Again, these are the brands that are setting the pace in the cosmetic industry, at least in the US. And most consumers look to the products from these brands when they're developing expectations of how products should work. Now, these companies spend the most money on research and development, so they often have products that are, more preferred by by consumers. It's what people are really used to and expect. That's why when you are formulating, it makes a lot of sense to emulate the formulations of these companies. All right, let's move on to the next important area to understand as a cosmetic formula, cosmetic raw materials. Now, before I get into this, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to put your question in the question box below this video. And at the end of this, I will take more questions and answer as many as I can. Just as it is imperative for cooks to know their ingredients to make good food, cosmetic formulators have to know cosmetic ingredients. Knowing the raw materials, form, and function is essential information for you to make cosmetic formulas. Now, it takes a long time to get to know that most of the 15,000 or so ingredients that are used to make cosmetic products. But a great place to start is to first realize that there are really only 3 categories of cosmetic raw materials. That's right, all of the ingredients used in cosmetics can be put into these 3 categories. They include functional ingredients, aesthetic modifiers, or claims or marketing ingredients. There is a little overlap, of course, and these categories can be divided further, but as a chemistry student or formulator, you've got to first know these main categories. The idea to look at cosmetics like this was inspired by the work of biologists they do called Cladistics. This is the practice of grouping organisms based on similar characteristics. So here's my version of cosmetic ingredient cladistics. Now you can see there are only 3 types of ingredients based on what they are doing in the formula. So we have the functional, we have the claims, aesthetic modifiers, and then you can see further groupings of the different kinds of ingredients. So let's look at the functional category first. Functional cosmetic ingredients are the ones which actually have an effect on the body. You can't make a useful cosmetic product without including at least one functional ingredient. However, you could make an entire cosmetic just using that functional ingredient. In fact, Vaseline has built an entire brand on just a single cosmetic ingredient, that's petrolatum. Functional ingredients include cleansers, conditioning agents, colorants, fragrances, reactive ingredients, film formers, and even drug actives. Every cosmetic you've ever used or made has at least one functional ingredient. Now, incidentally, functional ingredients are the ones that cosmetic chemists most want new raw material suppliers to make. If you're a raw material supplier out there, we're always looking for functional raw materials. The number of significantly different functional ingredients has not really increased in many years. And I suppose it's because it's probably pretty hard to create a really new functional ingredient. All right, another type of ingredient in cosmetics are aesthetic modifiers. Now, these are usually the most common and abundant of materials and formulas. They help to make delivery of those functional ingredients much more acceptable. These compounds help the functional ingredients spread, they dilute the ingredients, they make them more stable, and they improve the look and feel of the overall product. This category includes solvents, thickeners, preservative, fragrances, pH adjusters, plasticizers, fillers, appearance modifiers, antioxidants, anti-irritants, and even delivery systems. When you look at the ingredient list of most cosmetics, most of the ingredients are aesthetic modifiers. Now, these ingredients play a crucial role in the creation and experience of using a personal care product, so it's important for the formulator to have a thorough knowledge of what they are and how you use them. Now, while consumers use cosmetics to improve the way their skin and hair feels, this isn't the primary reason that they initially buy cosmetics. Consumers first buy cosmetics because they like the story that the products tell. They like the packaging or the way that the product looks and smells. And to help support the marketing story and the claims made about the product, formulators have to include claims ingredients. Now, claims ingredients, and sometimes they're called fairy dust, these are ingredients added to a formula at a low level for the primary purpose of getting to put the ingredient name on the label. This includes ingredients like natural extracts, vitamins, proteins, lots of biotechnology, and lots of fanciful made-up ingredient names. They are put in the formula to have, they're not put in there to have some sort of measurable effect, but almost invariably they don't have effect. I mean, they might have an effect, but usually they don't. However, most consumers need a story to believe when they buy their cosmetics, and these ingredients really will help support that story. Brands that don't include claims ingredients are much less successful in the marketplace. Now, this is just a high-level overview of raw materials, and you can spend your whole career working with these before you truly understand how to put them together in formulas. But knowing the main categories and subcategories can really help speed up your research and understanding of the science. In our practical cosmetic formulating course, we go into much more detail about the specific ingredients, including how and when and why you use them. Now, to join the course, you can just click on that link right below this video. Now, speaking of science, this brings us to the third essential subject every formulator needs to understand. This is cosmetic science. While you can actually do pretty well as a formulator just knowing the raw materials, knowing the underlying science will put you in a much better position to create more innovative, functional, and stable and safe products. There are a wide range of scientific subjects that a cosmetic chemist has to understand. Here are just a few of the numerous topics you need to eventually know. Skin and hair biology, surfactants, oil chemistry, microbiology, toxicology, solution science, and there's much, much more. Of course, we can't go through all of these topics in this webinar, but I thought I'd cover a subject that is of key importance, and it's only barely discussed when you get a chemistry degree in college. Let's talk briefly about the science of surfactants. Surfactants are one of the most important types of ingredients used in formulation of cosmetic products. You'll find them in cosmetics ranging from body washes to skin lotions to eyeshadows to toothpaste. Almost every cosmetic that you use contains at least one surfactant. Some commonly used surfactants include sodium lauryl sulfate, coconut propyl butane, and glycerol stearate. For natural surfactants, we have things like sodium glucosides, for example. Now, the term surfactant stands for surface active agent. This refers to the fact that in solutions, surfactant molecules migrate to the surface and they align themselves in a manner which reduces surface tension. The reason they behave in this manner is because of the way their molecules are structured. A portion of the molecule is hydrophobic, or it likes water, water-loving, while another portion is hydrophobic, or it hates water, or water-hating. You might also hear these things referred to as lipophilic, which is oil-loving, and lipophobic, which is oil-hating. When a surfactant is mixed with water, the hydrophobic parts of the molecule align themselves far away from the water as they can. Simultaneously, the hydrophilic portions of the molecule continues to be attracted to the water. This leads to a variety of different molecular arrangements, such as monomers, spherical micelles, tubules, rods, lamellar sheets, and even bilayers. The exact structure really depends on the concentration of the surfactant in the solution. Now, normally when oil and water are put together, they don't mix very nicely, but they stay rather separated. But this is because the polar materials like water and more compatible with other polar materials, while nonpolar materials like oil and are more compatible with nonpolar materials. This has led to the general adage that like dissolves like. Now, the unique surface properties of surfactants means that they can be compatible with both the oil phase and the water phase of a solution. They kind of like bring everything together. Now, this leads to a number of useful applications. First, there's cleaning. Surfactants are useful whenever you want to make something that's going to clean a surface. Water is going to remove, water will remove all the water-compatible ingredients, but for nonpolar dirt and oil, you need a surfactant to help remove that. These surfactants are called detergents, and you find them in shampoos and body washes. Incidentally, surfactants have the added bonus of making foam. Then there's emulsions. Since these materials are useful for, since a lot of the materials used for cosmetics can be both polar and nonpolar materials, surfactants can be used to create a mixture that has both. When surfactants are blended into these technologies, they align themselves in the solution to create small particles called micelles, and then upon mixing, the particles are dispersed throughout the solution, creating an emulsion. And emulsions are the basis for nearly all creams and lotions. Then we have moisturizing. Some surfactants can attach to the surface of hair or skin, and that improves the look and the feel. So they are frequently added to moisturizing and conditioning cosmetics. Hair conditioners and skin moisturizers usually contain one or more surfactants. We have aesthetic modifications. These surfactants, typically people who use cosmetics want them to be thick or opaque and then easy to spread and feel well. For cosmetic formulators to create these effects, surfactants such as fatty alcohols can be used. Then preservatives. Finally, some surfactants have, one or more characteristic that makes them useful as cosmetic preservatives. They can disrupt the structure of cell walls, which means they're able to destroy any of these disease-causing microbes that might grow on your cosmetics. Now, not all surfactants will be preservatives, but there are some that are preservatives. So as you can see, surfactants have a wide range of application in cosmetics, and the technology hasn't really changed since the late 60s, but cosmetic raw material suppliers are always looking to make improvements. And in the future, surfactants promises to be less irritating, more efficient, and produced from more sustainable natural ingredients. In our practical cosmetic formulating course, we cover surfactants and many more of these cosmetic science subjects in much more detail. All right, it looks like we're doing okay on time, and we can go into our fourth one. If you have any questions so far, feel free to put your question in the question box below. Just as a reminder, I am Perry Romanowski, and you're listening to the Cosmetic webinar, Cosmetic Science webinar. We're about halfway through. We're going through 7 points. Here's number 4. Our fourth essential subject formulators need to know are the types of cosmetic formulas. While there are literally thousands of different types of cosmetic products, there are actually only a few different types of formulas. Knowing the basic cosmetic formulas will allow you to create products that consumers will want to use. All right, here is a list of the 8 basic types of formulations, including what they are, how they're made, and then when you might use them. As a formulating chemist, you should make it a point to learn each type. Even if your company doesn't currently make these types of products, it's good for you as a well-rounded formulator to know how to make all of these. We'll briefly go through these. There's solution cosmetics. These are the simplest type of cosmetic formula, and they're used for a wide range of products such as shampoos, body washes, hand cleansers, colognes, etc. They are homogeneous mixtures of soluble ingredients, And to make them, you simply fill your container with your main diluents, usually it's water, and then you mix the rest of the ingredients into it. Sometimes warming the system slightly will increase the speed at which you can make these. Next, we have creams and emulsions. The majority of cosmetics use raw materials that are not compatible, so a cream or emulsion is used. Emulsions are pseudo-stable mixtures of immiscible liquids dispersed in another liquid. That's just a fancy way to say that they're like an oil mixed with a water. Now, they're used in products like hand moisturizers, makeup, hair conditioners, sunscreens, and more. To create them, you need 3 formula components, including an oil phase, an aqueous phase, and an emulsifier. The formulas are made by heating up the oil and water phases separately. Then you mix them together along with the emulsifier. When they're hot, you mix them a lot more. And then as you cool them down, the emulsion starts to form. The result is a cream with tiny particles of the dispersed phase in the dilute phase. You can see our article we did on the Chemist Corner about HLB. It gives you more information about creating emulsions. And of course, in our course, we go over this too. The next one is lotions. Creams are not always appropriate for some applications because they can be heavy or greasy. In these cases, the lotion form is really used. Lotions are essentially thin creams. They're used for facial moisturizers, leave-in hair conditioners, and moisturizing cleansers. Since these are emulsions, you make them the same way that you would a cream. They're generally easier because you do not have to worry about the emulsion getting too thick as it stands and cools down. We have ointments and pastes. These are super thick products used for things like hairdressing and medicated skin products. Usually they are anhydrous, they contain no water, but they're also sticky and greasy. Some common ingredients to create pastes are petrolatum, lanolin, or dimethicone. Making them is really simply a matter of just heating up the materials and rapidly mixing them together until they're dispersed. We have powders. Now, one of the most common types of product forms for color cosmetics is powders. Powders are also for products like baby powder or foot powder, so these are loose powders. They are just mixture of solid raw materials blended together into a fine powder. Some typical ingredients are things like talc, silicates, and starch. When you're creating pressed powders, though, like makeup, special equipment is needed and actually creating products can be a little dangerous because the fine powders can actually either be flammable or bad to inhale. Next, we have gels. This is another common form of cosmetic product. These are thick products. Typically, they're clear, and they have a property known as shear thinning. This means they stay thick until you apply a force on them, which then makes them thin and flowable. Anyone who's ever tried to get ketchup out of a bottle knows what I'm talking about. Gels are used for hair products, body washes, shaving products, and in toothpaste. They are made by using a gelling agent, such as an acrylic polymer, a natural gum, or a cellulose thickener. We got 2 more here. Sometimes sticks. Sometimes you need to create a product that consumers don't necessarily want to touch. For example, lipstick or underarm deodorant. And in these cases, you'll use a stick product form. Now, sticks are solid delivery forms that deliver active ingredients through a rubbing action. Now, the way you create them is using mostly materials that are solid at room temperature. The ingredients are heated, you melt them together, you mix them, and then you pour them either into a mold or into the final container. When they cool, they take the shape of the packaging. The last one is aerosols. Aerosols are more of a packaging product form than a specific formulation type. And in fact, you could actually create an aerosol out of almost any of the cosmetic formulations I talked about so far. You just need the right can, the right propellant, and the right nozzle setups. Aerosols are cosmetics delivered from a pressurized can. They're composed of a concentrated and a propellant. You first make the formula as you would any other cosmetic, and then you fill it in a can. Then you seal the can and pressurize it using the appropriate propellant. Recent VOC regulations, that's volatile organic compounds, they've reduced the use of aerosols in cosmetics. However, in the practical cosmetic formulating course, we give you working formulas breaking down exactly the type of ingredients that go into each of these different formulation types. So in our course, we go through each of these formulation types. Now, before I go to the last 2 cosmetic formulation essentials, I want to take a moment to dispel some myths about cosmetic chemists. So here's what people typically imagine folks in R&D look like, but I am here to show that this isn't true. Here is an actual picture of a cosmetic chemist at work. See, there's nothing like that. Actually, I had a lot of fun when I was a formulator, and being a cosmetic chemist is actually quite a fun job. All right, let's talk about the fifth essential of cosmetic formulating, product testing. Incidentally, if you have any questions, feel free to post your questions. Just make sure you put your name and your email address so I can answer by email if I don't get to it on this call. So we're getting to product testing. There are a number of different types of product testing that you can do as a formulator. The various types of testing include QA and QC testing, stability testing, microbial testing, safety testing, package testing, performance testing, claims testing, and more. You could spend a lot of time testing. Knowing how to test cosmetics ensures that you make high quality, safe, stable, and legal products. We explore all of these further in the Practical Cosmetic Chemist course, but let's dig a little deeper into the topic of stability testing. Here's one of the biggest differences between what you experienced in college organic chemistry lab versus a cosmetic formulation lab. In an organic lab, you mix chemicals together and you hope something happens. Ideally, you get a chemical reaction that you're expecting. But as a formulating chemist, we like to mix things together and we hope that no chemistry happens, right? Cosmetics are really mixtures of chemicals, and mostly they aren't supposed to react with each other. Unfortunately, they often do react and otherwise change, so you need to test your formulators to see how long they will last and whether they are any type of aesthetic, chemical, or physical changes. This type of testing is called stability testing, and it's something you, as a chemist, you're going to spend a lot of your time doing this. Stability testing is simply an experiment in which you create a batch of your formula, you put samples at different environmental conditions for a set period of time, and then you test to see if there are any significant changes. The conditions vary in temperature, light levels, and they're meant to simulate what would happen to your product when it's out there in the marketplace. At select intervals, you evaluate your samples for various physical and chemical performance characteristics to see how they change. If the changes are minimal, according to your company standards, then your formula is said to have passed stability testing. Now, this means you could have confidence that when your formula is shipped to stores and ultimately consumers, it will be as good as when you first manufactured it. In the US, there are no set rules on how you must conduct a stability test for cosmetic products, but this is the type of testing that you have to do to demonstrate that your products are safe. For cosmetic over-the-counter drugs, like sunscreens or APO, antiperspirants or dandruff shampoos, the FDA has a specific stability test requirement and that you have to follow. And there's more information about that on their website. But let's look at this, the storage conditions. Here are some reasonable storage conditions for which to test your cosmetics. You can see there are elevated temperatures and then there are different lightings. And then there are the test intervals, and here are reasonable test intervals for when you check these samples. Basically, there's the 2, 4, 8, and 12 weeks. Now, you often make a decision on stability about 8 weeks. The underlying assumption in stability testing is that increasing storage temperature speeds up any aging reactions that will occur. So a handy rule of thumb is that a sample stored at 45 degrees C for 8 weeks is equivalent to one that is stored at room temperature for about a year. Now, this isn't an exact predictor, but it's good enough for the purposes of cosmetic products. Here are other checkpoints to which you can make decisions. There's 4 weeks for a fragrance change, 12 weeks really gives you higher confidence, and for 52 weeks for some OTC products. Now, early on in your career, stability testing is something that it's going to be one of the most common activities that you do. And if you can create a system that you consistently follow, you're going to avoid the burnout and you're going to be able to confidently communicate when a product is appropriate for launch. All right, moving on to the sixth topic here. This is the topic of product prototyping. This is really the fun side of formulating, where you get a chance to experiment and invent new formulas. There are a wide range of prototyping skills that every formulator needs to develop, and here are just a list of a few. developing new formulas, evaluating raw materials, finding cost savings, replacing materials, improving manufacture, scale up, improving product functionality, and solving production problems. As a formulator, there is a lot that you take on to do. Learning these prototyping skills will make you a more efficient and productive formulator. Of course, we cover all of these topics in detail in our formulation course, but let me go through one of the most useful skills that isn't regularly discussed among cosmetic chemists: evaluating new raw materials. As a formulator, you're going to frequently get contacted by raw material suppliers and asked to test samples of their ingredients. Now, unless you are working on a specific project, it's hard to determine whether the ingredient is going to be useful for you or not. This is unfortunate because only by using raw materials will you be able to figure out how they work and how they feel, and how to work with them, and even what they do. You should make it a point to test out any of your raw materials that are offered to you. Even if you don't have an immediate use, eventually you will need to. But you don't want to get in a position where you have a shelf full of these samples that you've never used and never tested. You need a system for testing. So here is a simple way for a quick evaluation of many types of raw materials. First, you want to create a base formula in which you can easily add something like 5% of the new raw material. The best base formulas are made of like cleaning products like a shampoo or a body wash. The solution products, they're just easier to make. While this limits you to rinse off products, it does allow you to see how these ingredients affect foaming, cleansing, and product aesthetics, and the feel upon application. Now, when you are incorporating the material into your formula, be sure to use the maximum level that the supplier tells you. You probably won't use this much in the finished formula, but there is really no reason to use more than the supplier suggests. They almost always tell you more than you will eventually ever use. But you want to use enough where you can be sure if there is an effect, you're going to see it. Now, after incorporating the ingredient into your formula, run some tests to see how the material affects your base formula. How does it affect the foam, viscosity, pH, how easy is it to use? Keep track of your answers, and you begin to build a database of raw materials. Also, compare your formula to the base formula to see if there are differences. Ideally, you do these tests in a blinded way to remove the biases in your evaluations. Now, testing raw materials is the best way to learn about what they do and how they work. It should be something that every formulator does during their career to improve their own ingredient knowledge and to make you a better formulator. All right, our final topic on this tour through the essentials of being a cosmetic formulator is the product development process. We've reviewed how formulas get made and tested, but as cosmetic chemists know, the entire product development process and marketing process, if you know that, it's going to allow you to produce better cosmetics, and it'll eventually help you if you're going to eventually launch your own brand. Now, most of the companies follow a three-step process called a stage gate process. In this product development process, there are three phases: discovery, development, and execution. The entire product development process can take as little as 3 months and as long as a year or more. It really depends on your company. But in the discovery phase, this is where a lot of new ideas for products are generated. This is usually conducted by the marketing group and features a cross-functional team from various parts of the company. The ideas usually come out of brainstorming sessions, or they might come from consumer insights that are gotten through market research. Big companies spend a lot of money and time generating new ideas. Small companies often rely on 1 or 2 creative people in the company, and usually that's the owner, to come up with a product idea that they think consumers will like. So after generating all of these ideas, they're ranked and they're filtered by some sort of review process, and then only the most promising move to the next phase, which is the development phase. In the development phase, this is the one that's driven mostly by the research and development people. That's the formulators. You have to come up with formulas that satisfy all of the claims and ideas generated in the discovery phase. As a formulator, this is where you're going to spend most of your time. Typically, you're going to use formulas that already exist, but you might have to create some new ones. And you're going to also have to adapt your formulas to whatever claims are made in the concept of the ranked ideas. Now, only a few of these formulas are going to get through, and that moves you into the execution phase. This is where you do your product testing, select packaging, safety testing, develop claims, and finally stability testing. You also work on scale up and help the manufacturing people or contract manufacturers make the first few batches. At this point, you narrow down to 1 or 2 ideas. So following this stage gate process can really streamline all aspects of product development. It can also lead to quicker, more predictable development of products that you launch. And this is important when you're looking to get your product into store shelves on places like Target, Walmart, or even Whole Foods. They have specific times when they accept products, and if you don't work to their timeline, you really aren't going to be able to sell through them. If you're following an online selling strategy, then it's still important to have a product development process linked up with your marketing and your launch strategies. In a future course, we're going to focus more on the product launch process, but right now we're focusing on formulating. The most important thing to remember about developing any new product, you need to figure out a way to make your product stand out. It's very difficult to differentiate yourself in the cosmetic industry. Now, everyone can make good formulas. You need to come up with a story or a claim or packaging or marketing or other method for making yourself stand out in the crowd. Making great formulas is relatively easy, to be honest, but just because a formula is great doesn't mean it will sell. To do that, you really need to find some way to stand out. This is not only true of launching new products, but is also true of your cosmetic formulating career. Taking our course, Practical Cosmetic Formulation, is really one way that you can learn all you need to know to get started and make you stand out when you're trying to break into this industry. All right, I hope you've been posting your questions, and I will get to them shortly. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about our course, which you can sign up by clicking the link below. When I started out formulating in the cosmetic industry, I had the benefit of working with seasoned formulators and also access to an extensive formulation library. But I know most people are not in that situation. That's why I developed the Practical Cosmetic Formulation online course. It can be taken by anyone at any time and anywhere. And you get the benefit of not only the information that I've learned over years, but also the connections that I know and the experts that I know. And we talk to them and we present information in this course from them. Now, this course is suitable for anyone starting out and who wants to learn how to create safe, stable, and effective cosmetic formulas. In the Practical Formulating course, we've taken the 7 things that every expert formulator must know, and we've expanded on them to provide you with all the information you need to create cosmetics like a professional cosmetic formulator. By completing this course, you will know how to create nearly every kind of cosmetic formula. The Practical Cosmetic Formulating course has 9 modules on topics including product development, raw materials, cosmetic science, formulation, lab techniques, scale-up, and product testing. There are over 30 working formulas that we go through during the course. And it is set up for you to learn in the way that best works for you. The lessons are in audio, video, and text versions. You can take as long as you need to go through the course and even study while you travel. One of the things that I'm passionate about is teaching people about cosmetic science and the right way to make cosmetic formulas. We already have students with all types of background from various places all over the globe. Hundreds have already completed the course, and we've gotten lots of positive feedback. Here are just some of the things that people are saying. Now, mainly says, I think the training course is great. It covers a wide range of topics, and it's very organized with streaming videos, PowerPoints, which really help a lot, and formula files. I'm enjoying this training course very much. And Jill says, highly recommend this course. I would personally recommend the class to anyone who wants to learn not only about formulating, but the industry in general. If another class is offered with different subject matter for those who took the first one, I am going to take it. The classes are a good mix of information, which I found invaluable. And finally, Eric says, I am learning a lot of new things. They just don't cover this stuff in school. It's true, you don't learn much about cosmetic formulating in school. Now, since you've made it all the way to the end of this webinar, I've got a special bonus for you for signing up today. When you sign up today, you will get a free 15-minute one-on-one call with me. That's right, we'll work on the exact details later, but if you sign up now, you can chat with me, and it will be like getting a free session with a cosmetic formulating consultant. You can ask me whatever you want. Plus, signing up today will lock in the lowest price for this course. We'll be closing actually to new students at the end of this month. And when we reopen the course, it's going to be more expensive. This is because we keep improving the community, the onboarding process, and just adding more content. When you join now, you are going to have lifetime access to the current material and any new material we add to the course. Plus, we have a money-back guarantee. If you are unhappy with the course for any reason, you just let me know and I'll refund your money. Oh yeah, and there's one more thing I did for this webinar only. If you join today, you can participate in our payment plan. Just click on the link below here to get more details about that and to get started with the practical cosmetic formulating course. All right, I know a lot of you have been posting questions during this talk, and I'm going to go through and answer some of those now. Now, if I don't get to your question, I'm going to answer it through email. It's going to take a few minutes to go through the questions, so I'm going to take a short break, just a few minutes, and then I'm going to come back on the line to answer your questions. All right, we got a lot of questions. Feel free to keep the questions coming. I'm sorry if people had technical challenges. It's going how I can here. All right, we're just looking through some questions here. Some of these are more complicated than others, of course, so I'll just answer what I can. All right. All right, I'm back, and now I'm going to go through and attempt to answer some questions for the next probably until about like 10 more minutes here. All right, here's one from Agnes. She wants to know, what is the most comedogenic substance in cosmetics? It's a great question. It's really going to depend on your skin, but typically things like olive oil has a high comedogenic rating. There's a listing of them. In an email, I'll send you a list of some of those. But usually the longer chain fatty acids that have the double bonds, those can be problematic for some people's skins. Now, it's really just going to depend on people's skin. All right, another question here. This one is from Bandita. Instead of using chemicals in cosmetics, what if we use extracts of natural things? Because maybe there's no harm. Actually, if there are natural ingredients that work well, cosmetic chemists, that's what we use. We'll use extracts from plants that work well, or we'll use synthetic products that work well. There's no real connection between product safety and whether the product ingredient came from nature or not. Just remember, there are no cosmetics in nature. There's no shampoo tree or a body wash plant. There always has to be some sort of chemical processing to create cosmetics. And so, yeah, you can use herbs and extracts, but they have to be chemically modified. And as formulators, that's what we do use. Here's a question. This question comes from Lena. How do you get titanium dioxide to dissolve completely in an oil-based lipstick phase? Very, very difficultly. Titanium dioxide if you're in a lab, you can use a powder mill, which will put it all together in the wax phase. At home, some people can use like a mortar and pestle and try to disperse it that way, but it'd be very difficult to do without the proper equipment. Here's one from Laura. When making a shampoo, what is the best stage for adding botanical extracts for the most effective results? Usually the best time to add things is on the cool down phase. So when you're making a shampoo formula, you usually will put the water in, you heat it up to a little bit above room temperature to get things to go into solution better, and then you cool it down. And then on the cool down phase, that's when you add your botanical extracts, your fragrances, and anything that might be heat sensitive. Here's one. What are the best ways to obtain raw materials from a supplier? A lot of suppliers I have contacted do not like to send raw materials to a home address. Well, yeah, they're not really supposed to do that. They're only supposed to send raw materials to businesses. But one possibility, at least that works, a little trick that works here in the United States, at least around where I am, we have these things called a UPS store, and the UPS is able to accept sample shipments of materials like that. And that's not a home address. So when you're setting up a business, actually going to a UPS store and getting an address with them works pretty well. And so that might work for you. Another strategy that some people use is that they go to trade shows like Suppliers Day in New York or the Teamworks in the Midwest and Chicago here. And suppliers will actually be handing out samples. So that's another way to do that. But it is a hard problem. The best way is to find somebody, a friend in the industry who has a lab, and get the samples through them. Okay, what is a good surfactant for formulating a natural liquid shampoo? The most one are desoglucosides or lauryl glucosides. Those are the ones that have been used most frequently, and you can get some good formulating there. But it really depends on what you consider natural. We actually cover that in our natural formulating course, and it's mentioned also in the practical cosmetic formulating course. So that was from Janisa, or this is from Janice. Do cosmetic chemists get to design packaging, not just how elegant or eye-catching the design be, but also if effectively houses the ingredient that may be particularly sensitive to light or air? Yeah, well, we don't get to create the packaging, but we work with, in a big company, you work with a packaging group who you actually do the testing of your formula to see if it's compatible with the materials that's made out of the product. If you're doing aerosol testing, you actually do spray testing as part of stability testing. And so in a big company, you actually do work directly with the packaging people, but typically you're not in the design mode. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or you're a small lab, you will work with a packaging company and you can get them to do things in a certain way, but there is a lot of limitations. Next we got here, thanks, Perry, for this great event. This is from Mule. Can you tell me how to deal with the huge amount of names of cosmetic ingredients? That's a great question. One of the best ways to know is to learn the stem names of the various fatty acids, right? In our course, I publish a chart of all the stem names for this. But so C12, carbon 12 is lauryl, and carbon 16 is cetyl or palmal. C18 is stearyl. And so once you start to recognize those names and you learn how to, the system that we follow is put out by the PCPC. It's called the International Nomenclature of Cosmetic Ingredients. And the names of the ingredients, there is a system to them. There's some things like polyquaterniums where they just have the word polyquaternium, and all that tells you is it's a polymer. Then there's a number after that, and all that number does is tell you when the thing was registered. So the number doesn't tell you much about the structure. However, you can start to get to know about these things, but the INCI dictionary is a great place to start. Do we need to take notes, or are the slides going to be available later? The slides will be, I'm going to do a replay of this, so you'll be able to see this again and then play it whenever you like. Glenn asks, is it possible to start out on a shoestring? If you're talking about starting a cosmetic line, I would say yes, now is an excellent time for entrepreneurs, because there's a great way that you can distribute your product without having to go and find a buyer at a store. You can create a website and deliver your product online. And actually, if you work with Amazon, Amazon has a fulfillment system where they actually fill all your orders. And so you get an Amazon store, you pay them some money, and so part of the profits. But that's an excellent way. Then you spend your time building your brand online. And then once you build your brand online, you demonstrate some proof of sales. You can use that information to get your products into stores. And but it's not free to create cosmetics. You're going to actually have to generate some money. Probably to launch a single cosmetic line, you're going to need at least $10,000 to $15,000 to get started. Thanks for that question. This one comes from Carla. If you are trying to enter the cosmetic field, will it be required for you to know everything about cosmetic science, or will you learn more specifically on the job when you enter the industry? When I entered the cosmetic industry, I didn't know anything about cosmetics. I know I used shampoo. I didn't even know what cosmetics were. A course like the Practical Cosmetic Formulating course will actually give you a great introduction to everything that you need to know to be competent in the cosmetic industry. And so that'll give you a leg up, especially when you're interviewing for jobs and things. You learn the science on the job. And so it's okay if you don't know it before you start your career. But taking this course here, that will help a lot. All right, this one comes from Marta. Can you list the best natural preservatives for skin? Well, that's an excellent question that a lot of people want to know. As far as but it's very complicated to answer, and let me tell you why. First, natural. Everyone has a different meaning for what they think natural is. There are no natural cosmetics, to be honest with you. There aren't plants out there that are just natural cosmetics. So all cosmetics are processed to some extent. Now, some people say, well, if it's plant derived, then that means it's natural. And that's a reasonable way to go. There are also lots of standard agencies out there who have come out with their own natural standards. And then so you follow the formulating process of these courses, these agencies, like the EcoCert, for example, or Cosmos. In the United States, the Natural Products Association has their own natural standards. But as far as the marketplace goes, anybody can call themselves natural if they want to, and they can pretty much use any chemicals they want. But let's assume you're following something that could maybe go into whole foods. The specific preservative that you're going to use really is going to depend on what else is in your formula. But ingredients like phenoxyethanol are used, sorbic acid, caprylyl glycol is used, and sometimes you keep the pH low. And so there are a variety of things to use, but like I said, it really depends on what else is in your formula and what kind of exposure your formula gets to cosmetic microbes. All right, we're going to keep going through these questions. We got lots of them, so thank you. Another question from Carmen: what is the best preservative for creams with plant extracts? The ones I just mentioned. Well, reality is I think the best ones to use, the most effective that you can be sure of, parabens like methylparaben and formaldehyde donors like maybe DMDM hydantoin. Those are the most effective, the safest, but those also, if you're trying to create say a natural story, those aren't really the ones that you could use. That does not work with the story. So you want to use something like phenoxyethanol, sodium benzoate, benzoic acid, typically things that have been used for food preservation. Okay, we got another question about preservative. Lots of preservative questions. This one's from Catherine. My question is the best preservative combination for organic products. In my opinions, I guess I just answered that, and so that will go there here. Here's one from Carbon. For face cleansers, what is the best ingredient to make the saponification? I guess if that's in soap making. I should mention that soap is actually not considered a cosmetic if you're just selling soap. Now, if you're making any cosmetic claims, then it is a cosmetic. But soap is actually exempted from the cosmetic regulations. However, in the case of what you're talking about here, usually sodium hydroxide is good for a saponification. All right. Just some questions. Here's one from Carla. Is there a negative effect from the chemicals or certain ingredients in cosmetic lines in foundations or face creams? Cosmetics are, when you launch a cosmetic, it has to be safety tested. And so the cosmetics that are on the market have been safety tested. So there's no immediate negative effect from the chemicals that are traditionally used to make cosmetics. There's lots of scaremongering in the internet and the media, but the reality is cosmetics are some of the safest consumer products that you can use, and they have a great safety record. I should note that in the United States and around the world, really, it is illegal to sell unsafe cosmetics. And so when you launch a product, one of the things you have to do is run safety tests and demonstrate that your products are safe. All right, we're coming near the end of this. We're going a little over, but question from Marta, is the course recorded? I'm interested in the course, but that I can go back to at any time. Yes, you can go back when the Practical Cosmetic Formulating course. Once you sign up, you can watch the videos as often, whenever you want, as often as you want, and you never lose access to it. So once you join, you're in. Let's see. This one comes from Jill. Is it best to use modified fragrances when formulating body washes and the like products? Would modifying it with something like polysorbate 20 or something similar to help a fragrance mix in easier be sufficient? We find some fragrances work better with surfactants than others. Well, that's the thing about fragrances. Yes, some fragrances are created with hundreds of, anywhere from 75 to 100 different compounds. And some of these are going to work better with surfactants. Some of them are going to work worse for surfactants. They're going to smell different. One of the things that we always tried to do was we had a shampoo and conditioner line. We'd make the shampoos smell like the conditioners. Sometimes you had to modify the fragrance so it would smell the same in the conditioner as it did in the shampoo. And so really the answer to that question is it just depends on the specific fragrance that you're using. But yes, using something like polysorbate to get it into your system is usually a good idea, especially when you're trying to get it clear. It'll also, essentially surround the fragrance molecules, and so the things that evaporate off and actually affect the senses and noses, those will be more consistent when you use something like polysorbate. All right, I'll just take a few more questions. Incidentally, any question that you posted to here, I will answer. If I didn't mention it here, I will answer it by email. And by the looks of the number of questions, I'm going to be spending a lot of time answering. Remember, you can sign up for the Practical Cosmetic Formulating course and get our free bonuses today only. So, and also, don't forget to get your free gift, which is on the side there. You can click on it. It's a PDF. You can download it. It's a book that's new to the world, and it's yours free just for joining this webinar. Thanks so much for joining, by the way. All right, I'm going to do 2 more questions here. Here it comes from Geneva. When resources are available to help determine the percentage of emulsifiers in skincare products, I'll have to think more about that. I don't exactly understand the question. Let's get, Hada asks, can we have a copy of the presentation? Yeah, I'll provide, if you signed up for the webinar, I'll provide you a link to get all the slides and even the text of everything that you heard. Thanks for that. Okay. And we'll go, here's one from Geneva. Can you give an example of how you tested raw materials? I want to know what you can learn from the process. Okay. The way I tested raw materials is I took, so first, general testing, there's the quality testing. So you take pH, viscosity, you look at the color, you look at the odor, and then you usually run a mass spec to get the spectroscopic readout of the material. That's just to make sure that you have the material that you ordered. Okay, but when you want to know about how an ingredient works, what I did is I always took I had a base formula, a base shampoo that I had. So it was a standard, it's just like the VO5 shampoo. It was a standard shampoo with standard ingredient levels. And I'd leave out some of the water, like 5% of the water. So when I try a raw material, I see what the supplier said. If they said use a 2% in the formula, And I would use 2%, and I'd add back the 3% of additional water. And then I would make the formula. I would write down my observations about how it affected the formula, how it affected the pH, the viscosity, the appearance, the odor, and all of that. So first I have that piece. Then I would do evaluations. I would use it on my own hair to see how it foamed, see how it rinsed out, see how it left my hair afterwards. I would always compare it to the standard formula that didn't have the ingredient in there. And I would do that on a blinded basis. So I'd have these bottles. I would have 3 bottles, actually. 2 of them were one thing, and one of them was either the control or the test, and I didn't know which one, and I would mix all 3 up. I would use all 3 samples, and then I would see if I noticed any difference. I figured if I didn't notice any difference, because I was very well trained at evaluating things, then a consumer wouldn't really notice a difference. And so that was kind of my mark on that. And, you know, I used shampoos a lot. In fact, in 2005, I had the most shampooed head in America, washing my hair like 1,500 times. And so I was very well experienced in shampooing. But that's just gives you an idea of how you can go about testing a raw material and about whether you want to use it or not. All right, it looks like we're a little bit over. Thank you so much for joining. And that is really all the time I have for. I'm going to, there'll be a recording of this so you can view it again. Thanks for watching, and I hope you got some quality information out of this. Please let me know with comments about whether you want to see something like this again, or whether it was useful, or whether I really need a haircut. I don't know. And remember, the Practical Cosmetic Formulating course is closing to new students at the end of this month. So if you want to register, today is really a great day to do that. Thanks again. I am Perry Romanowski, and I appreciate you so much. And thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.